I was saying, I feel like that scene in Jurassic Park when Ian Malcolm is in the car and he's just like, now I'm here in the car by myself, talking to myself. Because I'm always the one here ready to stream and you're off doing your thing. Yeah.
Yeah, we're starting now. Yeah, we're starting. I'll let you know when we're done. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I'm just giving everyone a chance to show up. God, you know my hair.
Oh, this is.
It's just so wet.
Well, you did just take a shower.
I did just take a shower. Let me find.
Clean.
Have to find the fanfiction anyway.
Mom was bringing Bailey cookies, and now he's like on the hunt for anything. Like,
Yeah,
I know,
she did it again.
I know the cookies are here.
He's looking for straight. Bailey, come on, man.
All right, come.
Hello!
Hello, how are you tonight? Or today, I guess, depending on
Today,
the time
tonight,
of your location.
wherever, whenever. Ah, welcome, welcome.
Hello, Trevor. Glad you're doing good. Ready to get some Marauder action going on.
Yes. Yes. I am pulling it up.
Yeah.
I am.
After we ended up on a pretty sad chapter last time.
That was pretty depressing.
Yeah.
That was
We
sad.
could have held back and not read that extra chapter.
Well, hopefully
It's short. It'll be fine. No, just poor Lupin. Can't read, getting all these letters.
But maybe we'll get a good feel-good chapter, because today we start year 2.
The Marauders will be reunited. All back together. I like it.
With today's chapter, Regulus Black.
We get to see the Reg.
Reg. I don't know.
Say Regulus, not Regulus.
I know.
Regulus Black. Sounds wrong.
It does sound wrong. Especially since he's named after a star.
Exactly. I think his mom called him Little Reggie.
Little Reggie.
Chicken Reggies.
Chicken Reggie. It's always food.
Well, chicken Reggies are delicious.
I know, but Kale Drogo.
Yeah. Well, he was a vegetable. Come on, I had to go.
No, that was good. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying there's a lot of food. There's a lot of food jokes.
Yeah, there is. I'm a hungry man.
Hungry.
That's my secret. I'm always hungry.
I think you stole that from somewhere.
Original content right here on BIBLIOBIBULI.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, you're acting like you don't even believe me.
I believe you. What are you talking about?
Right.
I believe everything that comes out of your mouth.
Well, that's your first mistake. So yeah. All the young dudes.
Shall I start?
We can start year 2. Let's hop right in.
Okay. Chapter 21. Second year. Regulus Black.
The mic right next to you.
Do you want me to start over?
No, I go for it.
Metal Guru, could it be? You're gonna bring my baby to me. She'll be wild, you know, a rock and roll child. I'm not singing lyrics. I'm just...
Why not?
Because I don't know how the song goes. I'm not gonna know how all the songs go.
I'm gonna feel it.
No. Well, too late for that one. Remus gripped the handles of his battered old suitcase with white knuckles. His stomach turned excited somersaults as he watched the bustling crowds. Matron had let him run at the barrier this time, though she looked away at the last minute, terrified. Now she was far behind him, on the Muggle side of the station, and he didn't have to see her again for 10 months. He'd a terrible nightmare the night before that they would arrive at King's Cross and be unable to get through to platform 9 3/4. None of it had been real. Magic, wands, wizards, his friends. But Remus tried to push these thoughts from his mind as he gazed eagerly about himself, looking for a familiar face.
That makes me question something real quick. Is platform 9 3/4 always accessible, or is it only accessible during
The school year?
the school year, like when they're going to or from Hogwarts?
I feel like it has to be accessible year-round.
Yeah?
Because I
But
feel
it's
like...
not Hogwarts Express. Does it go anywhere else?
Well, what if the teachers have like an emergency situation? Well, I doubt they would use the Hogwarts Express because Lupin's the only one that uses the Hogwarts Express in book 3.
Because I don't know if they ever pointed out, is the Hogwarts, or not the Hogwarts Express, 9 3/4, can anyone go through there?
No,
To be a wizard.
I think you have to be a wizard.
Or is it just anyone can go through there? It's just only wizards know.
No, I think only wizards can go through there because I'm sure there's Muggle like barrier charms, like how you like Muggles can't get to Hogwarts because of all the spells.
It'd be super funny to just sit there and watch some kid watch this wizard run through the wall and then think, I can run through the wall too, and just splat.
Yeah.
All right, that's getting off topic here. Go ahead.
Let you come back, did they? A cold voice interrupted his search. Standards must really be dropping. Remus felt his shoulders tense. Why did the first person he spoke to have to be Snape? Get lost, Snivellus, he spat. He squared up, turning to face the Slytherin boy with his meanest look. Ugh, what on earth is that smell? Snape drawled, wrinkling his overlarge nose. Remus coloured. He stank of antiseptic. He knew it. Matron had been much too liberal that morning. I said get lost, Remus murmured, clenching his teeth and balling up his fists. He saw Severus recoil, slightly. Remus knew how he looked. He'd had 2 months without magic, surrounded by bigger and tougher boys than Snape. He was wound as tight as a bear trap and ready to throw a punch at the smallest provocation. Oi, Baldy! Another voice sounded over the crowd. A boy with glasses and jet-black hair sticking up at all angles was leaning out one of the carriage windows, waving madly at Remus. Remus smiled, forgetting that he was trying to frighten Severus, and waved back. He rubbed his head self-consciously. His hair had grown out while he was at Hogwarts, but Matron had shaved it all off as soon as he was back at St. Edmund's, making him look like a thug again. Casting a filthy look at Snape, Remus clutched his suitcase and hurried onto the train, pushing past other students to reach the carriage where his friends were waiting. Lupin! Peter jumped up, excited. He didn't quite know what to do with himself once he was on his feet. They certainly weren't going to hug like girls, and apparently handshakes weren't in order. Pettigrew awkwardly patted him on the arm instead, and Remus gripped his in return. Hiya, lads, Remus smiled, his cheeks aching with happiness as he sat down. How's it been? We should be asking you, James laughed, punching him in the arm. Not one owl all summer. Remus glanced at Sirius furtively. He hadn't mentioned the letter Remus had sent him then. You know I'm practically a muggle over the holidays, he replied. Couldn't even get into my trunk to do homework. They locked it up. That wasn't strictly true. Remus had asked Matron to lock away his school things, terrified the other boys would get to them. The homework he hadn't done, because he hadn't been able to. There was a quiet noise of disgust from the corner. Remus looked up, frowning. Sitting on the seat beside Sirius was another younger boy with the same deep blue eyes and long dark hair, the same unmistakable black features, full lips and cheekbones that could cut glass. This is Reg, Sirius nodded offhandedly. Say hello, Reggie.
Chicken Reggie. I wonder if he ever gets scared, and does he ever call him that? Chicken Reggie.
It's Regulus, the boy replied irritably, his high aristocratic voice indignant. My darling brother. Sirius raised his eyebrows at the other three. Hi, Regulus, James smiled, offering a friendly hand. I'm James. Hotter. Regulus looked down at his hand as if it were filthy. Sirius slapped him round the head.
God, just everyone says Water like that. You gotta really blow up the cheeks.
Pizza! Pizza! Stop being such a little prick, he snapped. These are my friends. I didn't want to sit here, Regulus replied. You made me. Oh, go on then, piss off. Don't know why I bothered. Regulus stood up, stony-faced, and exited the car, slamming the door behind him. Wow, he really has the Black family charm, James grinned. Sirius shook his head despairingly, propping a foot up on the bench opposite and leaning an elbow against the window pane. The whistle blew and the train began to roll out of the station. Shouldn't have expected anything else, Sirius muttered. He's totally brainwashed and annoyed with me. I shouldn't have been gone all summer. Reckon he'll be in Slytherin then? James sympathized. Probably, Sirius glowered. He knows I won't talk to him, if he is. Rather he was in Hufflepuff. Remus thought this was a bit harsh. Certainly he disliked Snape and Mulciber, and yes, they'd played some pranks on Slytherin House, but Remus had never hated Slytherin, like Sirius seemed to. Surely he wouldn't disown his own brother just because they had a slightly different uniform? The only thing Remus could see wrong with the Slytherins was that most of them were snobs, and Sirius, James, and Peter were snobs too, though they didn't realize it. This train of thought left him as they began to gather speed out of London, and Remus could finally relax into the idea that he was indeed returning to Hogwarts, and that magic was finally, officially permitted. He yanked open his suitcase and grabbed his wand for the first time in months. Remus hadn't dared touch anything magical since the end of term, but now he pulled out one of his second-hand books. They had arrived the week before from Dumbledore, opened it and quickly performed Letiuncula Magna.
Gotta work on your Latin.
That was not an easy word. He pretended he was scratching behind his ear with the wand and muttered the words under his breath. Sirius must have seen what he was doing because he jumped up to pull his broom down from the luggage rack, distracting James and Peter. Remus looked down at the book, his heart racing. The words filled his mind like music, and finally he could read again. The summer had been incredibly dull. He'd attempted to read some of the books lying around St. Edmund's, but without magic it was too frustrating. He'd very slowly got through each of the letters from his friends, but was much too embarrassed to attempt writing back to anyone but Sirius. He'd also had to lie low a lot. Remus felt as though he'd passed whole days sometimes without speaking to anyone. The other boys had been told he'd been away for a private boarding school paid for by his father's will. This, of course, made him more of a target than ever, and combined with his increasingly difficult full moons, Remus had spent much of the summer covered in bruises. Full moons were another reason he was relieved to be returning to Hogwarts, where Madame Pomfrey, the school's Mediwitch, was not only more sympathetic than Matron, but better qualified to handle the peculiarities of his condition. Matron had been horrified to see the new injuries Remus inflicted upon himself each month, and treated him as though he'd done it deliberately, just to annoy her. It had been much worse than the summer before, when he'd got away with a few scratches and bruises each night. Now, underneath his muggle clothes, Remus was almost covered in bandages and plasters which pulled and chafed whenever he moved. He hoped he'd be able to slip off to the hospital wing soon after they arrived. Sirius and James were busy telling Remus about their own summer, with Peter joining in here and there, keen to make it clear that most of the time it had been the three of them. It sounded as though they'd all had a spectacular time, even if there was a lot of Quidditch. James's parents had a cottage by the seaside as well that...
Even if there was a lot of Quidditch? What? It would be the funnest part.
Most fun.
It would be the most fun part.
Lupin doesn't like to fly. We've
I know,
established this.
still.
Also, Sirius apparently really isn't that into it.
Yeah, I know. Which I don't know. I don't think that's canon.
I feel like Sirius probably would have liked Quidditch.
Yeah, he would have.
James's parents had a cottage by the seaside, as well as what James called their usual home near London. The three boys had camped out on the beach, fished, flown kites, and plotted their pranks for the year ahead. They chatted about it excitedly for so long that Remus felt like telling them all to shut up. He felt a bit better when the trolley came round. James and Sirius pulled their pocket money and bought enough to feed half of Gryffindor House. Remus had no complaints. As usual, he was very hungry. Are you Remus?
Maybe. I'm also Harry, I guess. Because Harry always buys out the trolley.
He does. And so does James,
First
apparently.
first day on the
Hogwarts
Hogwarts Express. We'll take the lot.
Yep. Remus was immensely glad that he'd stuffed his face on the train because he'd forgotten how long and drawn out the sorting ceremony was, especially when you weren't taking part in it. Regulus was indeed sorted into Slytherin, which came as a surprise only to Sirius, who Remus heard exhale sharply in disbelief. The younger black brother scurried over to join his peers, and Narcissa, who was now sporting a silver prefect badge as well as a sleek new platinum hairdo. Severus patted Regulus on the back, sneering over at the Gryffindor table. "What is his problem?" Peter sighed as the food finally appeared. "You'd think he'd get over a few stupid pranks." "More like he needs to get over Evans," James said, sounding uncharacteristically pensive. They all looked at him in confusion. "Oh, come on, it's obvious," he grinned. "Old Snivelus is clearly madly in love with a certain carrot-top Gryffindor." He winked at Lily, who gave him a disgusted look and very obviously turned her back on him to continue her conversation with Marlene. So because we got the bird he fancies, he's going to be a pain in the arse for the next 6 years?" Sirius replied, disbelieving. Remus blinked at him. Bird? Sirius was not the sort of boy who called girls birds. He was far too upper class. Where on earth had he heard that? "Exactly," James confirmed, looking very proud of himself. "Nah," Sirius shook his head. "No one could care that much about a girl." Remus silently agreed with him. Still, Potter didn't seem to mind having his theories disputed. He shrugged, digging into his roast potatoes. "If you say so. Must still be annoyed about the time Remus punched him, then." Sirius laughed at that memory, finally cheering up.
Could anyone obsess about a girl that much? Really? Maybe.
That's some slow burn action right there.
Oh, yeah.
But maybe about a boy?
Wink, wink, hint, hint.
Nod.
A very special boy.
Boy.
Or in this case, a pup.
Lupin would be a cub.
Oh.
Cub. Wolf babies are called cubs.
I know.
Sirius babies would be called pups.
Either way, I call them pups. I call them direwolf pups. So, there. I call them pups. Because they're puppies.
Because they're puppies.
They're just wild puppies.
They're not puppies. They're not dogs.
It's close enough.
They're not. No, they're not.
Wolves are just feisty doggos.
No, a wolf and a Jack Russell are not the same thing.
No, they aren't.
Or a pug.
No.
Or a chihuahua.
But guess what? A chihuahua and a husky aren't the same thing either.
Yes, but they're both dogs.
Yeah. But they're vastly different. They're canines.
Wolves are not doggos.
But they're canines.
They are canines.
And they are
yes.
doggos in my eyes.
Oh, jeez.
They're just a bunch of sweet babies.
Are foxes doggos too?
Yeah.
Maned wolves? Are they doggos?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Foxes, they're more like pups.
Even the big ones?
Yeah, because they all look small and cute. Especially Arctic foxes. They're adorable. Have you seen them?
Mm-hmm. They have them at the wolf sanctuary.
Yeah, they're awesome.
In the wintertime, they're fluffy.
There was a documentary I was watching, and this Arctic fox kept following this person.
Oh no.
Because they've learned if they see people, or they'll follow. I think they'll also follow polar bears and basically pick the scraps.
Right,
that's
food.
their thing.
Yeah.
They find an alpha predator and
follow it.
Yeah.
That's a good strategy.
Might be reminiscent of how doggos became doggos.
Maybe.
I mean, that's kind of how it happened. Following humans around, eating the scraps, and then next thing you know, you're just, where's Billy? He's chilling. He's in there on the couch, just chilling.
Or the bed.
Yeah.
Are you ready for this next chapter?
What's the title?
Chapter 22. Second Year. The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars.
What?
The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars.
My God, I hope that's a real band. That is the greatest name ever.
Ziggy Stardust is real.
He is?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a pseudonym that David Bowie used.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like an alter ego that he had.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Very gender fluid, androgynous. Lots of makeup and sparkles and stuff.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So it is. All right, someone did it. Like I said, someone better have, and they did. So I'm happy.
All right. Madame Pomfrey was horrified by the state of Remus's skinny, battered frame when he finally went to see her. "What has that woman been doing to you?" she gasped angrily. "Oh no, I did this all to myself." Remus gestured dryly at his bare chest. The nurse tutted, peeling away another bandage. "Yes, but she's done barely anything to treat you. I had no idea Muggle medicine was so primitive. These are magical wounds. They need magical care." Remus nodded tiredly. He'd grown used to the carnage now. The pain had settled on his shoulders like a heavy burden, one he thought he would probably just have to bear. Life was full of limitations. He simply had more than others. Perhaps that's why he was so drawn to Sirius and James. Madame Pomfrey wanted to observe him overnight, but he refused grumpily. The full moon was 2 weeks away, and he wanted to sleep in his own bed as much as possible. He walked back to the common room slowly. Though he was feeling better than he had in a month, Madame Pomfrey had given him a potion that made him feel loose and comfortable and pleasantly light-headed. There was no chance of a quiet afternoon, though, for when Remus reached the dormitory, he found Sirius sitting on his bed, the record player and brand-new album spread across him. "Lupin!" he beamed excitedly. "You have to hear this." "Thank Merlin you're here," James groaned from his own bed, where he was flipping through a Quidditch magazine. "He's been banging on about that Muggle singer all summer." "He's not a Muggle," Sirius snapped, hands on his hips. "He has to be a wizard. He has to be. You should see the clothes he wears." Remus crossed the room and picked up the record sleeve. He smiled, mildly surprised. "Oh, Bowie. Yeah, I like him. I don't think he's a wizard, though." Sirius looked mildly disappointed that Remus had heard of him, and Remus hurriedly explained. "I've heard Starman a lot on the radio, but no one at St. Eddie's has the album." Placated, Sirius settled the black disc he was holding onto the turntable and fixed the needle in place. James sighed deeply and got up, leaving the room, magazine under his arm. Sirius ignored him, watching Remus's face eagerly as the slow drum beat began. Remus sat down on the edge of the bed and closed his eyes to listen. Pushing through the market square, so many mothers singing. News had just come over. We had 5 years left of crying. It wasn't the same as Electric Warrior. It was darker, moodier. Remus liked it a lot. There was a story in it, though he wasn't sure he understood all the parts yet. As the closing bars of Rock and Roll Suicide reverberated, Sirius lifted the needle and moved it back again.
And so enters Remus in his goth stage. I'm trying to picture Remus as a goth. Actually, I probably could.
"Listen to Suffragette City again. That's my favorite." Remus smiled. He could have guessed that. It was loud and rude, and you could dance to it. This mellow-thighed chick just put my spine out of place. For himself, he thought he liked Moonage Daydream best because it was weird and spacey, or Lady Stardust because for some reason it reminded him of Sirius. His long black hair, his animal grace, the boy in the bright blue jeans. Remus quickly dismissed that thought, sure that Sirius would find it hysterically funny.
Sirius Stardust. Actually works because he's named after a star.
Right.
Star.
He's a spacey starman. Dreamy
He's a
starman.
spacey doggo.
Once they played the album all the way through again and then replayed their favourites, it was almost dinner time. They sat cross-legged together on the bed, poring over the album notes. Maybe he is a wizard, Remus conceded dreamily. He's not like a normal muggle. Told you, Sirius smirked triumphantly. I'm going to get more, too. All of his albums. T-Rex had a new one, Remus said. Slider. Cool. I wish Mrs. Potter had let us leave Diagon Alley. I even got some muggle money from Gringotts. What's Diagon Alley? Remus asked, though he thought he had some idea from the summer letters. Sirius's eyes widened, as they always did when Remus demonstrated his shocking lack of wizard knowledge. Bloody hell, Lupin, he tutted. It's a wizard street in London. Muggles can't get in. It's like Hogsmeade. Oh, right. It didn't sound that exciting to Remus. Shopping was boring. Where do you get all your stuff? What stuff? School stuff, your books, your robes. Sirius's eyes darted to the fraying cuffs of Remus's black school robes. His own were brand new, immaculately finished and cut slightly better than everyone else's. Second-hand, I think, Remus replied. Dumbledore sends them. Dunno how I'd get to a wizard street. I'm not allowed into London alone. Next summer, Sirius said firmly, you have to come to James's place and stay. We can take you to Diagon Alley. You'll love it. You know I can't, Remus said quietly, not making eye contact. We'll sort it out, Sirius said with confidence. Talk to Dumbledore, McGonagall, the Minister of Magic if we have to. Remus forced a smile, pretending he believed Sirius. Yeah, great. Thanks, Black. The rise and fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars became the soundtrack to the Gryffindor boys' dormitory for the next week, until even James, who was tone-deaf, found himself humming along. Remus had never felt so satisfied and at ease in his entire life. He was away from St. Edmund's, away from grey shirts and matron and locked rooms and troubled boys who wanted to get him. He wasn't covered in bandages, at least for the moment, and until lessons began on Monday he had all the time he wanted to read, listen to music, and muck about with the Marauders. He spent most of his time catching up on his reading and completing the summer homework they'd been set. Like a starving man, he devoured every piece of information presented to him, and even went to get more books from the library to investigate further. He also had to have a number of conversations with James before he could convince them that he had no desire to be on the Gryffindor Quidditch team. Remus was content to sit in the stalls with his book, occasionally glancing up to watch the other three boys flitting back and forth on their brooms. They were all very good, but it was obvious even to Remus that James was the best of the three. He didn't even look like he needed the broom. The black-haired boy soared like a kestrel, his turns smooth, his dives nauseatingly sharp. Remus hadn't attended many Quidditch matches in his first year, but he felt sure that James would earn a place on the team. Sirius was much showier in his flying technique. He didn't lack James's skill so much as his discipline. Black appeared to get bored easily. He could go quite fast when he wanted to, but was more interested in looping and swerving dangerously than catching quaffles or repelling bludgers. He needed James to shout at him every few minutes to keep focused on the game. Peter was very competent after a summer of drills, but he was quite slow over long distances. James decided he might be better off as a keeper. You're acting as if you get to handpick the whole team, Sirius huffed as they headed back to the castle after a practice. They ought to let me, James shrugged as if it were obvious. I'm better than at least half the current team, and you're better than both beaters. And I know tactics. Just try not to be too shocked when they don't make you captain, Sirius rolled his eyes. You're still a second year. There weren't supposed to be any second years on the team at all last year. Have some faith, Black, James winked, throwing his arm over his friend's shoulder. They strode ahead together, brooms in hand. The sun was setting behind them and threw everything into sharp relief, outlining the two dark-haired boys in heroic gold. Remus watched them, lagging behind and weighed down by his books, thinking that they would probably all be a little bit surprised if James didn't get exactly what he wanted.
Well, second year making it to the Quidditch team. I mean, that's all right.
You know what's funny about this
Maybe
chapter?
McGonagall hadn't fallen into the Quidditch debt yet.
Maybe.
She hasn't developed her gambling addiction.
I love this line where they say the sun was setting behind them and they were silhouetted by heroic gold. It's almost like foreshadowing of what's going to happen to them.
Yeah.
And
gonna go in the sunsets.
Too soon. Die heroes.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Which this kind of also gives me a little bit of an emotional tug that James is so passionate about Quidditch and he's so good and this and that and the other thing. Like, it just makes me think that if James were alive, like how just incredibly proud of Harry he would be.
Yeah, he would be.
Like,
but
he
remember,
would just
this
be.
isn't canon. Okay? Don't get too emotionally invested. It's not canon.
I'm just saying. Okay.
No, you can't say it. It's not canon. It's not really what happens. This is not Pottermore confirmed.
Oh my god, you just made me laugh so hard. You can't. I gotta keep it together.
I tried to make
you
comparisons. Can't. You shot me down. No, we're not doing that. I wonder if James Wood's dad is going to be here. Or not Oliver Wood. Why did I say James Wood?
I don't know.
We're talking about James. Oliver Wood. Oliver Wood's father is Mr. Wood going to be on the team?
Mr. Wood. That's a good question. I guess we'll find out. When there's tryouts.
I guess so. They've gotta have him in there. He's gotta be some super competitive Quidditch player.
What if he's the total opposite and he's like a Neville?
Oh, that'd be great.
And he just wants to like
he's like the greenhouse. He's the water boy of the team. I think about like Woody Harrelson. What if as a joke they named one of their children Woody Wood?
That'd be terrible. That's awful.
Woodward.
That sounds like 1-1.
Exactly. They could have their own Marauders.
1-1, Woodwood, and Moon.
Okay. Let's pull ourselves back together. Ooh, composure.
I need a drink of water after that. We may have time for one more.
Well, we definitely have time we have a half hour. We definitely have time.
All right.
2 if it's short.
2 if it's short. We'll see what happens. Our record is usually 3.
No, we did 4 last time, and we ended on the most depressing chapter fanfic yet. So maybe we'll keep it at 3.
I don't know. There's a note here that says Remus has some quite dark negative thoughts in this chapter.
Well, Jesus. Okay, 4 it is. 4. Okay. Let's not end it on a depressing note again.
So that's how long the chapter is. I can't help how long it is. Maybe he will only brood for a little bit of time. Unlike, Jon Snow.
He's like Batman. Batman was bitten by a bat and became all broody and dark.
And his parents were murdered.
Remus has been bitten by a wolf and he becomes all broody and dark. All he's missing is a costume. Remus is the poor Batman. You ever wonder what Batman would do without money? Here you go.
He'd be Remus Lupin. Oh my god. I'm all caught up watching Game of Thrones. Missed your life. That's all right. You're here. It's all good.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's all good.
Glad to have you here.
Oh, we still have a half hour. Let's get into this broodiness. Speaking of Game of Thrones, we're familiar with broodiness.
And you're all caught up. The next chapter of Game of Thrones will be up tomorrow, in case you were wondering.
Clash of Kings.
Yeah, Clash, Song of Ice and Fire. I call it Game of Thrones.
Everyone calls it Game of Thrones.
I know.
It's a problem.
The show has manipulated my brain.
I think it's done it to everyone. Chapter 23, Second Year. Brotherhood. Remus did not have a brother, at least not one he knew anything about. He supposed that his mother might have remarried and produced a nice, non-magic, non-monster child. That really didn't feel like his business. He'd accepted his lot in life long ago. James, too, was an only child, and this went at least some way to explaining why he was so cocksure and demanding. Sirius talked about Potter's parents as though they were perfect saints, but they had clearly spoiled their son rotten. Peter had a sister who was a good deal older than him and had already left Hogwarts. She'd been in Hufflepuff, but Peter didn't talk about her very much. She was studying at a Muggle university, which was apparently the height of bad taste. So perhaps none of them really understood what was happening between the two Black brothers, which might have been why they didn't take it very seriously. It began the morning after the sorting. During breakfast, Regulus had received a gift from his parents, a brand new eagle owl. This was his reward for getting into the right house, which they found out because Severus gleefully read the letter aloud within earshot of the Gryffindor table. Sirius stared at his porridge, not rising to the bait, but Remus looked over at Regulus and saw that...
Angry cats. Hi, Jill. Oh, glad you're liking the readings.
Yes, awesome. Fantastically.
Park is always a great place to listen to an audiobook.
It is. Just lay in the grass.
Yeah.
Stop being a festival bands. Thank you. But Remus looked over at Regulus and saw that he was blushing hard, trying to snatch the letter away from Snape. Didn't your parents confiscate your owl again? Peter asked bluntly. Sirius gave a sharp nod. Said I can have it back when I remember my duty to the family and started acting like a true Black. I don't care. I don't need an owl. What exactly is your family duty again? James mused loudly so that the cackling Slytherins could hear them. Go round with creeps like Snivellus and Mulciber? Marry your cousin? Sirius finally looked up at James, his expression half grateful, half mischievous. Oh, yeah, he replied conversationally, just as loud as James. Snape, Regulus, and most of the other Slytherins who'd been laughing were now quiet, narrowing their eyes at the two Gryffindor boys. Peter edged away slightly. Inbreeding and creeping are key aspects of my noble heritage. And picking on kids smaller than me, of course. Cheating, lying, cursing my way into power. Well, mate, I'm sorry to break it to you, James replied jovially. But it doesn't sound like you're a Black at all. Goodness. Sirius's hand flew to his face in mock surprise. What on earth am I? It's obvious, James shrugged. You're a marauder. Sirius laughed, as did most of the Gryffindors sitting nearby. Remus saw Severus's hand reach for his wand and quickly grabbed his own in preparation, running through a list of spells in his head, trying to come up with one that would stop him the quickest. But Regulus nudged Snape with his elbow, muttering, It's fine. Remus was sure he was the only Gryffindor who heard it. Come on, Snape sneered. We'd better get away from all this filth if we want to keep our breakfast down. This only made Sirius and James laugh harder, and Snape swept from the room, followed by Mulciber and a new first-year called Barty Crouch. Regulus held back, glancing nervously between his friends and his brother. The new owl sat perched on his crooked elbow, surveying the scene with an imperious, condescending look. He edged toward Sirius. You can borrow it if you want, Regulus said quietly. I never asked her to send anything. But you know what she's like. Yeah, snorted Sirius. I know. They both looked at each other for a while, and Remus couldn't tell if they were staring each other down or trying to find words to say something different. Look, I'm sorry, okay? You knew I'd end up in Regulus started, but was quickly interrupted by Sirius getting quickly to his feet. "I don't need your owl, and I don't want it," he said stiffly, looking right through his brother. "If I need to send a letter, I'll borrow James's." With that, he pushed past Regulus and made to leave. James, Remus, and Peter hurriedly got up and followed him. Remus looked back at Regulus, who looked very pale and very cold. Remus didn't think about Regulus very much after that. The line in the sand had been drawn, and it was their duty as Marauders to support Sirius. Besides, they were all much too busy once lessons began. Remus threw himself into his studies this time, in a complete reversal of his behavior the previous September. He read along eagerly, answered questions in class, and completed his homework as soon as it was set. In everything except potions, he was a model student. He'd never forgotten that he had read the year before about people with his problem. They did not do well once they'd left school. Those stupid enough to sign the register were excluded from almost any skilled wizarding work. He would have to be the best of the best, and even that might not be enough, but he had 6 more years to try. There was another element to his academic aspirations. Sirius. Well, Sirius and James, really, but most importantly, Sirius. Remus didn't doubt that Sirius was his friend, exactly, but he did doubt that Sirius truly saw him as an equal. He railed against the Black family's beliefs in blood purity, but at the same time often made snide remarks about Peter's squib heritage. That was always behind Peter's back, and Remus dreaded to think what Sirius was saying about him. Remus had learnt during his very first term at Hogwarts that being a half-blood meant that he was slightly less trusted than other wizards. The Slytherins in particular targeted students with any kind of Muggle heritage. Marlene McKinnon, whose father was a Muggle, had perfected the Bat Bogey Hex before anyone else in their year group as a means of defense. Lily Evans was protected from torment wherever Snape was nearby, but it was clear that plenty of the students thought that she was rather full of herself, considering the circumstances of her birth.
See? Just the Slytherins in general.
Yes, we do.
Oh, yes. Yes, we do. We do have a Patreon. It's right on our channel. You can get the link up. Or we also have the Super Chat button now on our chat where you can donate directly for YouTube if you want.
Yay! Super Chat is cool. Shall I just keep going while you do that?
Yeah, I'm just going to pull up the
Okay.
Patreon.
Sirius never voiced anything quite so strong, but Remus had a feeling that his being better than everyone else at schoolwork was taken as proof that his magic was somehow better. Remus had an extremely strong desire to prove him wrong. It came as a mild surprise. He'd never been very competitive before, but he'd never been given the tools to compete. Of course, there would always be one insurmountable obstacle for Remus, and in September of 1972, it came towards the end of the month. Remus had been dreading it as always, and in the days beforehand remembered to mention that he wasn't feeling well in order to prepare his roommates for his impending absence. Truthfully, he'd never felt better. Though the transformations had worsened and the days required to recover had lengthened, Remus also found that as the moon began waxing and gathering strength, so did he. He was ravenously hungry, his senses sharper, his magic grew thick and heavy on his tongue like syrup, and he barely slept at all, instead staying up half the night reading voraciously, trying to ignore Sirius and James's furtive whispering in the next bed. He arrived at the hospital wing promptly, and Madame Pomfrey and McGonagall once more escorted him down the Whomping Willow. They were very quiet as they made their way across the grounds, but once Remus was locked into the shack for the night, he heard the two women stop and begin talking as they travelled back down the long passageway.
Angela, thank you so much for your donation.
My God, wow, thank you so much.
It is very appreciated.
Thank you very, very much. Wow. Wow. Oh my goodness. They mustn't have realized he could hear them, that his hearing was better than most people's, especially on a full moon night. Madame Pomfrey was complaining about Remus's treatment plan over the summer. Covered in injuries, I cannot, in all good conscience, allow him to return there, Minerva. It goes against everything I know as a healer. I understand, Poppy, McGonagall responded sharply as they crossed the grounds. It is a difficult matter. When Remus's mother handed him over to the Muggle authorities, she made things very hard. We have to tread carefully, very carefully. I shall speak to Dumbledore. He's such a quiet little thing, never complains, even when he must be in so much pain. Remus didn't hear any more. They'd travelled too far down the passage, and his own screams drowned them out. In the morning, Remus came back into his body, gasping as if he'd just been born. There was not an inch of him that didn't hurt. His head throbbed sickly, needles pressed behind his eyes. His neck and shoulders felt like snapped elastic. It hurt to breathe. Every heave of his chest caused pain to shoot through him, and he was sweating heavily, even though the air was cool. There was a deep gash across his belly that made him want to be sick. He'd lost a lot of blood already, and it was still bubbling up, thick wine red. He half crawled, half dragged himself across the room to a box of emergency medical supplies kept under the floorboards. He pulled out some gauze, using all of his remaining energy, and pressed as hard as he could against the dark wound. He cried out from the pain, but kept pressing. His breathing grew shallow, though even that hurt. He felt dizzy, wanted to curl up and sleep. "Stay awake," he urged himself furiously. "Stay awake or you'll die, you idiot." "Die then." A tiny voice appeared in the back of his head out of nowhere. "It would certainly make things easier. For you. For everyone." Remus shook his head, dazed. The voice was kind and soft, like a mother. He pressed harder, grunting with effort. In his misery, he wondered if the voice was right. Was he clinging on to a life that had never really wanted him? That might never be all that much worth living? What if he did die? What if he just closed his eyes? It might just be a matter of sooner rather than later. He closed his eyes, exhaling softly. "Remus?" Madame Pomfrey's polite knock arrived on time, as always. He ignored it. He was...
Balls! He just climbed on top of the
Oh,
bookshelf
there
back
she...
there.
Yeah, I see. There's her little tail. Edible bands!
It's like, what was that?
Remus! The door burst open, and suddenly she was there, kneeling beside him, pulling his head into her lap. "Go away," he murmured, not opening his eyes. "Let me go." "Not on your Nelly, young man," Madame Pomfrey said, so fiercely that despite his confused state, Remus laughed. Then he winced, instinctively clutching his chest. The Medewitch aimed her wand at his open wound and stitched it together in a matter of seconds. Then she felt his chest where he'd touched it. "Broken rib," she murmured. "Poor lamb." She flicked her wand once more, and Remus felt an odd pop in his torso. Suddenly it didn't hurt to breathe any more. He opened his eyes and looked up at her. She was busy tugging a blanket over his shoulders to keep him warm. "Now then," she whispered gently, though they were quite alone. "What do you think you're doing, giving me a scare like that, Her voice was so warm and her fingers so tender. Very carefully she pulled him into a hug. "We can't lose you, Remus. Not while I'm at Hogwarts." "Hurts," Remus whispered. She held him tighter, and that did it. For the first time in a very long time, Remus began to cry. Not just a few sniffles either. As the sweet, kind nurse held him, he wrapped his own arms round her soft body and bawled like a baby.
Remus. At least not the end of the chapter, so we're not ended on depressingness. I will say I do feel with Remus, because there was a time when I actually had a dislocated and it hurt so bad. I didn't know what it was for like a week. And then a friend showed me like some yoga positions to kind of stretch out my back. I didn't realize it was a dislocated rib. And I did this one position. I just felt a pop in my back, and instantly, like the relief. Oh, I've never felt more relieved in my life.
I've never had a dislocated rib.
Don't
Sounds awful.
Don't try to get one.
This sounds awful. He had to spend 2 full days in the hospital wing. The wound on his stomach was not the only one he'd had inflicted that night, though it was the worst. Madame Pomfrey's spell had been enough to stop the bleeding long enough to get him out of the shack, but he needed rest and quiet. She gave him sleeping draughts regularly, and he drank them down without complaint, preferring not to be awake. The Marauders came by trying to see him, but at Remus's request Madame Pomfrey turned them away. It was late Friday morning when she finally let him go. "I'll send a note to your professors. Let them know not to expect you. You're to go straight to your dormitory and lie down. Understood?" He walked up slowly, taking a different route than usual, thinking about the map. He ought to start working on that again. He'd read something very exciting about something called a homunculus charm. Once he reached the dorm, Remus crawled onto his bed, drew the curtains round it, and lay on his back.
That's my new favorite charm, the homunculus. I just love it. I don't even know what it does. Homunculus. It's great.
Beams of light slid through the joints in the fabric, highlighting a galaxy of dust mites. It was still warm for September, and someone had left the windows thrown open, filling the room with cool air. The breeze sucked the drapes on Remus's bed in, then pushed them out, billowing out. He watched it dreamily for a while. In and out. It was like being inside a lung. "Lupin!" A sharp voice shattered his calm. Sirius ripped back the curtains, flooding the small space with light, searing Remus's retinas. "Ugh, what?" he groaned, shielding his eyes. "Sorry." Sirius rubbed his arm nervously. "What is it?" "Remus, I have to tell you something." They were quiet for a few long moments. Remus slouched back, too tired to sit up. He sighed. "Well, it's James," Sirius said desperately. He wants to talk to you." "What?" It's... blimey, it's hard to say, Lupin." "What do you want about?" "What do you want about?" "He knows, James knows, and he wants us to confront you." Remus sat up, his stomach flipping over. He knows what? About your, you know, where you go, every full moon." Remus stared at Sirius. He didn't know what to do. "You knew?" "I knew," Sirius confirmed. "How long?" "Since last Christmas. I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to make it harder for you." Remus was speechless. Sirius shook his head, impatient. "But James worked it out too, the lanky idiot. Now he's decided we all need to confront you about it. I'm really sorry. I tried to get him off it, but you know how pig-headed he is." "Yeah," Remus croaked, leaning forward rather suddenly. He held his head in his hands. That was it. He was about to lose everything. Everything that meant anything to him. "It's okay. I think it's going to be okay," Sirius said. "How?" Remus lifted his head, hot with terror. "Might as well start packing now." "No, don't. Look, he wants to talk to you about it. No, he's not going to go straight to Dumbledore or anything. Doesn't that mean something?" But Remus had already got up, opened his trunk, and begun emptying things into it. He might have to leave straight away. They might not even give him time to pack. Would they let him keep his wand? He'd grown very fond of it, and it had belonged to his father, so it was rightfully his. Perhaps if he promised only to ever do the reading spell with it? "Remus!" Sirius grabbed his shoulders. He flinched, but only because he expected it to hurt. Sirius's dark blue eyes bored into him, and he tried to look away. "Listen to me," Black said very gently. "Just wait, okay? Just wait and see what James says. He's your friend. We're Marauders. Us." "That's bollocks." Remus shoved him away. "That's complete bollocks. You two are the Marauders, you and him. Me and Peter are just your pet charity cases." He seized his pajamas from the end of the bed and flung them into his trunk. "I'm not that much of an idiot, Black. I'm probably better off going back where I belong." It was the first time Sirius had ever been speechless. But then it was the first time Remus had ever said so much to him. His mouth twitched once or twice as though he wanted to speak but couldn't quite manage it. Remus kept packing. "Just wait," Sirius said hoarsely, leaving the room. "Just wait and see what he says."
End of chapter.
End of chapter.
What a cliffhanger.
What a
Wow.
banger!
They know. They've always known.
Since Christmas last year.
And why is he packing us? Why does he think this is going to kick him out?
Because it's supposed to be a secret,
Yeah.
and
But it's not like he went around and told them.
no,
They figured it out.
but I think he's just so beaten down that he thinks he's going to get kicked out.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, we know that Dumbledore would just be kind of like, oh, well, they better keep it a secret too.
Yep.
Or do his whole thing with that he did with Harry and say, you know, they're your friends, you should tell them.
Right? You can tell Ron and Hermione, but no one else.
Exactly.
You need to trust your friends, Harry.
Exactly. So, you know,
they know.
keep this between the Marauders.
I
And
think-
yes, I know you're the Marauders. I see everything.
I think Remus is feeling a little jealous of how close James and Sirius are.
I know.
Because there's very much a dynamic of...
I want to walk into the sunset with you, Sirius.
There's very much that kind of dynamic of it's always the two of them together, and I'm on the outside, and so is Peter, and it's always you two, and...
Peter and me are just your pet charity cases. Which I guess is half right, because, I mean, Peter, come on.
Yeah. He's that kid you hung out with because your dad and mom told you had to hang out with him because he was
Yeah.
the neighbor kid or whatever.
Let him tag along.
Yep.
Mom. All right, you can jump first so that we know the river is deep enough.
But yeah, I figured they would figure it out relatively quickly.
Yeah, they're intelligent fellows.
Yeah, they're smart boys.
I'm glad they did. The author did take a chance to really show how smart they are, because I think a lot of what we get is that they were. I guess Fred and George is very smart too. I was gonna say more like Fred and George, but kind of mischievous.
Using their intelligence
yeah.
just for pranks or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Fred and George are very smart.
School was not meant for them.
They don't use it in, like, James and Sirius are both still academically inclined.
Yeah.
And compete with each other. With
Fred and George were too smart for school.
In a way, yeah.
They were too cool for school.
They were. And I like how she's providing evidence for Lupin being such a brilliant wizard. It's like, I have this affliction, so I'm going to be better than everybody.
Hmm?
And I think the more he's doing it, the more it's not just it's all about being better than everybody, but he's actually really getting into it and enjoying it and liking reading. And
I don't get who wouldn't enjoy being a wizard. It's like, come on, you're a wizard. No! Who's gonna react that way? No one! So you mean I can fly broomsticks? I can do magic?
I mean, look at what happened to Petunia. Look how angry she was that she was not a witch.
Yeah.
Look what happened.
Exactly. That's the proper reaction. Maybe not taking it quite as far as her, but she had a good reaction.
Yeah,
that's the reaction
I'd be pissed too. I probably would have written Dumbledore a letter too. Especially if I was 11.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was 11, I'd throw a fit.
Yeah.
I didn't want...
Yeah, no, Alejandro, I agree. They're incredibly smart, incredibly gifted.
They are.
And it's just not respected by their mother because they use it for jokes and pranks and stuff. But, like, you have to have incredible magical skill to be able to do those things and make them safe for people. And
yeah,
let's face it, by the end of this series, they were contracting with the Ministry to do, like, weapons manufacturing.
That's what I mean. I think it was a great depiction of, like, real life and how... What's that saying? If you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, of course you'll say it's stupid.
Yeah, so
You
yeah,
know?
I know what you mean. Yeah.
They aren't academically inclined, but once you get them in the joke shop and doing mischievous stuff,
But they had to
they're
be
geniuses.
somewhat academically inclined because they had to learn all that magic.
Well, yeah, but it's
Ah.
it showed they learn by doing. You know, they just
Right.
kind of
Well, they had to experiment.
trial
They
and
did a
error.
lot
Yeah,
of experimenting.
they were experimenting on themselves and stuff, so it was like
But I'm
trial and
saying they
error.
had to have the like
Oh
some of
yeah,
that
yeah,
stuff. They had to have the potions knowledge to do this and be able to create an antidote in case their experiment goes wrong. Like they have to have a lot.
oh yeah.
The Mythbusters of the wizarding world.
They really are.
They are, yeah. And like, let's take this as far as we can take it. Let's see if we do X, Y, and X and Y. Do we get Z or do we get Dudley choking on his tongue?
Right? I picture Fred just like puking his guts out or something and being like, "No, that's a failure." And George just there. But did you die?
I feel like that's how a lot of it went.
Yeah.
You didn't throw up any organs. You're fine.
Spleen's still in the right place and we're making progress.
So I have a prediction. I predict that James is gonna be like, "You're a werewolf. Okay, it's totally cool. We're gonna figure out a way to do this together. We're gonna be animals. We're gonna get the we're gonna get the groundwork for the animagi."
Well, I think they're
Thing.
gonna find out how much he's like hurting himself and stuff, and then they're gonna be like, "Well, we need to do something to help you. What can we do?"
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
they're gonna put together that the wolf doesn't hurt other animals, or it doesn't feel a need to attack other animals. They're like, "We'll just turn into animals." Then.
Yeah, they're gonna like do the research to figure it out.
McGonagall, need to ask you a few questions.
Was really impressed with your cat transformation.
Yeah. So, how you do it?
That just reminds me of when she turns into a cat in book 3, and she's like, "All right, what's the matter with you guys? Everyone always gets really excited when I do that, and you guys didn't even bat an eye.
I know.
What is happening?" And they're like, we went to divination class. Who's gonna die this year?" The best part about Trelawney is that, like, everything she predicts, they all think she's crazy, but she's right about everything.
Yeah.
Like, even the one where she's like,
"Ooh, I wonder if..."
"Look, my boy, you were born in midwinter, yes?"
No.
And Harry is like, "No, I was born in July."
But
But that little
the
tiny
demon inside of me. Yeah,
he was born
good call.
New Year's Eve or December 31st. I can't remember now.
Either way.
Totally
I
off
was
topic,
about
though.
to say, oh, we get to see Trelawney, but no, she isn't here yet.
And we don't know how old she is.
But
Well, they're not third year yet.
Dumbledore hires her.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Because of the
Snape
prophecy.
hears
Oh my
the
god, so who
prophecy.
teaches divination?
Is there even a divination class?
That's the second question I was going to have.
Yeah.
Do they even teach it right now? Also, how about that little nod? And the new student, Barty Crouch. Barty Crouch Jr. is at Hogwarts now.
I wonder if he's already doing his little lip thing.
That's a movie thing.
I know, it's so creepy. I hate it.
Oh.
I like to pick on it. Oh, okay.
There was one more thing I wanted to mention before we hop off.
It wasn't about Barty Crouch?
It might have been.
Oh.
It might have been a tangent to another thing, and now I can't remember what it
I wonder
was.
if Voldemort is just gonna get a little piece in here.
Oh, that was what I was going to mention. That little moment between Regulus and Sirius, that was sad.
It was a little sad.
Regulus was trying.
He was.
And showing that, like, just because he's a bad guy does not mean he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
He seems like he's a good kid, or is trying to be a good kid.
Well, we know he's a good guy.
We do. But I'm
event.
interested to see how his character develops, because he's just rejected by his brother and he's sucked up into the Slytherins, and what's going to happen. And I'm invested in Regulus's little character
I know
arc.
you're interested. You don't care if it's not canon.
You don't care if it's not canon
I
either.
don't. But you were the one who was like, strictly, it's not canon. We can't.
I was trying to resist, okay? I was trying to resist the pull.
Regulus just pulled you in.
He did. He got me. He did. He got me. Also, Snape is very like giving up some
He did a
Malfoy
little
vibes.
reggy tuggy.
Ew. Ew.
Yeah.
That was
I heard
gross.
it as soon as I said it.
Ew.
Yeah, that's bad. That's bad. All right, moving on. Let's forget I said that.
Snape also seems to be giving off these almost like Malfoy vibes.
Makes sense.
But I don't think he's like Malfoy. I don't think he's a Malfoy type character. I don't think he has the confidence to be a Malfoy.
I mean, their arcs kind of go the same, except Malfoy like kind of is scared straight. Severus, we don't know. He's just, I guess he's scared of Dumbledore. He's not really scared straight.
Hi, welcome back.
Hello.
It's been a minute. I just feel like he's a little too cocky and arrogant. And from what we get from Snape is that he's not cocky and arrogant.
He's arrogant. He's a little cocky when it comes to potions.
Well, he knows what he knows.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's not a pureblood. He doesn't have money. You know, that whole he kind of comes across with that Malfoy.
Comes across with that fake arrogance.
Yeah, false bravado kind of a thing. I just never pictured him as being like the big bully of the Slytherins.
No, I didn't either, but well, I mean, the only real glance we got into his past, he was getting bullied, so there's that.
Well, right. I don't know. I feel like it would be I don't know.
Yes, he was pretty cocky in the flashback memories. He was.
Maybe I'm not saying it right. He kind of comes off as this like ringleader character, like Malfoy is.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's the cocky and arrogant thing. Okay, maybe I'll take that back. Maybe he's a little bit.
His real insecurity laid in Lily.
Well, yeah, because he was terrified.
Outside of that, he was very cocky, though.
I'm just saying I don't see him as this ringleader.
I'm saying I could.
Character. I don't know.
I don't think he was ever really depicted that way, but I could. And like I said, we kind of see him as the grunt, but that's only because he's stuck between a rock and a Voldemort. You got Dumbledore over here.
Yeah, I'm not talking about adult Snape.
Yeah.
I'm talking about child Snape. Adult Snape is a whole separate can of worms. It's conversation. I'm talking about kid Snape. Like, Malfoy is kind of like this little ringleader of all these Slytherins. He's got money and influence and this and that, and I just don't get that vibe from Snape.
Well, maybe the rest of the Slytherins don't have money in his grade, and they're just like,
I'm
just gonna go with the kid who knows what he's doing.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see how it develops.
Maybe he did like the Slytherin Lupin thing where, Lupin came up with a prank of the The rose hips. And then Snape got them back. So maybe Snape did that, and after that they were like, yeah, Snape's the cool.
I think actually Joey Rue kind of hit it. Snape was more of like a, pick me, let me be a part of it kind of a thing. That's what I was trying to say. Like, he's not the leader. He's like cocky and sure of himself and his intelligence and his abilities, but he's also like, let me be a part of the thing. I want to be a part of the thing. Everyone at home treats me like garbage and like I don't exist, but let me be a part of the thing. I can do the thing.
Yeah.
Sectum Sempra. But see, look, I made that up. I'm awesome.
I mean, you could argue that Draco was kind of like that too.
Yeah, but Draco was the person who would let you in the group.
Well, yeah, but
Draco's not the pick me. Draco is the like, I'll let you. I won't.
No, Draco was kind of like that with the Death Eaters, though. I mean,
yeah, but that's different.
Here, he's just like, Oh, let me in.
That's different though, because they're the adults doing the things. I'm talking about like playground at school, kind of the kids
I know,
amongst kids.
but those were the kids of the people who were doing it.
Right, but Draco's looking to enter into the serious things versus like sitting in the common room with your peers, not your superiors.
Fair enough, yeah. Yeah, he doesn't have the cool factor, that's for sure.
No. He's my favorite character, and I'll say that dude was not cool. Ever. Mm-mm.
Yeah, total opposite of cool.
He was, if you needed an example of what not cool is, it is Snape. To the T.
Yeah, I mean, at least he was smart.
And being a Death Reader was kind of like a birthright thing. It was like expected of him.
Yeah,
He
was born into it.
He was born into it, and
choose the Death Eater life. He was
no,
born into
and
it.
I'm sure that's part of why he breaks away from it, is because he grows up and he realizes, like, oh shit, this is bad.
Yeah,
This is bad. Everything my dad and my mom have been telling me about how great this is not great. This is bad, and I don't want to. But I can't not do it now because I'm stuck.
Yeah.
And that's Draco's whole struggle, like, later.
Father didn't tell me about this part.
I don't know. Adult Snape was a really cool dresser. I like his vibe. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Snape got cooler the older he got. He figured it out.
Like a fine wine.
Snape gets better
Kind
with
of.
age. Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
He gets better, but he was like a, not fine wine, like a cheap wine, Got better, but
All right. I agreed with you already that he wasn't cool.
I know, I'm just kidding.
Give me
I'm
that.
I'm just prying here.
You are. You're being a stinker.
I am.
Lola's being a stinker.
No.
She's going crazy.
Snape is definitely much cooler when he's older.
I think we all get better with age. Thank goodness I didn't peak in high. Yeah, for real. If we peaked in high school, God, what else is there to look forward to? Those people who are like, oh, high school was the best time of my life. That's sad, man. You got nothing else to look forward to? That's terrible.
Yeah, I don't get that. Unless, like, you're a year out of high school. I don't get that. 'Cause, like, I look back on it, and
we gotta go to prom and do the yearbook. It's gonna be the best year of our lives.
Right? I don't know. For me, I look back at, like, my high school career, and I'm just, like, cringing. Just, why'd I do that? Why'd I say that?
Mm-hmm. Why'd I wear that?
Yeah.
I think, yeah. Why was I friends with this person? All kinds of things.
Oh, yeah.
Thank God I didn't have, like, social media when I was a teenager. Because then I don't have it haunting me, 15 years later.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, God. Nah, Joey Rue was always cool. I believe that one. He's always been cool.
I was certainly not.
I was not. Ever cool. I feel Snape on that one. I was never cool. Lola, I swear, don't kick that under the washer, Lola.
Oh, man. All right. So we ended on a cliffhanger, but at least it wasn't depressing.
It wasn't a depressing cliffhanger. It was like an anticipatory cliffhanger.
Yes.
Like, cannot wait to see what happens next.
I know. I don't have to wait till Saturday.
I know. Only 2 days.
Saturday, 2 p.m.
Saturday at 2 p.m. It's an Eric Dadson put the pastry. See, I think that's kind of cool, but no one would have thought that in high school. No. Absolutely not. No.
I was a drummer in high school too, so
I played the cello in the orchestra. Okay. I was not cool.
Yeah, I played drums until like 9th or 10th grade. No, I finished 9th grade and then 10th grade I stopped playing.
Sorry, she was like shaking her leg like she got it wet.
Because I like chose sports over banned.
I didn't touch sports with a 10-foot pole. I stayed far, far away from that.
I mean, it makes you feel any better. Like 2 years after that, I broke my collarbone and I couldn't play my senior year.
Well, I play golf. I'm the most uncool.
The golf is pretty cool. I like golf.
I like mini golf.
I like regular golf.
I don't like regular golf. I cannot play golf. Maybe that's why I don't like it. But I like mini golf. The colorful balls.
That's true.
The obstacles. That's really cool. Stilts? Yeah, I'm not walking on stilts.
Stilts.
No.
Man.
I will get sick. That's too high off the ground. I cannot do that. I commend you for being able to do that, because no, I'm not.
Yeah, I commend you, because we actually had stilts in my high school that you could use. I could never do them. I could barely like stand on them for 5 seconds.
It looks insanely hard.
It is.
It looks insanely hard. It's too high off the ground for me, and I am clumsy naturally. No, me and stilts are not going to have a good time. So I am really impressed that you learned how to walk on stilts. That's flipping cool.
Yeah, that is. Oh man, it was always bad whenever I did it.
Frelling cool, as they say in Farscape.
We had a unicycle in gym class too.
I went to school with a kid who had a unicycle. He could ride it everywhere all the time.
I tried it once. Never again. I have never hit my face so hard on the ground.
That's cool. He had to learn it for work.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. At least, I guess, if you're learning it for work, I'm assuming there's like training and stuff.
Yeah.
People on stand.
There's got to be an easier way though.
With stilts?
Maybe not. I don't know.
I can actually feel my front teeth being busted by walking. Or poke stick. Same.
Oh yeah.
Same, girl. Same. I can literally just feel all my bones crunching in my face, just splattering on the ground. Would not be good. My glasses shattering and the shards going into my eyes. It would be awful. It would be terrible. It's way easier than getting on a ladder.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I guess because you could just walk.
Yeah.
You're just up there and you walk. Yeah.
Yeah,
work smarter, not harder.
I remember, I never like worked construction, but I remember like working with my uncle, and we were building a new like garage / shed for him, and he was doing some stuff on the ladder, and he had to keep moving it.
Yeah.
But instead of getting down, he would like hop the ladder over, and I'm just like, that is extremely dangerous.
That's such a bad idea.
Just like stilts would be much safer than that.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I also do not do ladders. I do not do that. Nope. Too high.
Oh.
Fell yesterday. It's more embarrassing than painful. I didn't get back up. Well, that's good. Sure. At least it doesn't hurt that much, I guess.
I'm assuming since you need your hands free, they're like the stilts that you strap onto your legs. Because I could see those would be really hard to get back on.
Right,
because then you gotta like, push yourself up and pull yourself up.
You gotta have like a surface to like leverage yourself off of or something. Yeah.
I was picturing like, the actual ground stilts at first, and I'm like, no, that would just be more work than a ladder.
Yeah, right. No, it's gotta be the ones you strap your. Yeah, you're right. Angela's right. He's leagues ahead of us. It's all right. Yeah. Don't be embarrassed that you fell. None of us could even do that anyway. So.
I was gonna say.
Way more impressive.
That's all I can do on stilts is fall.
Yeah, the strap-on ones.
Yeah,
that's what. Yeah,
so I could see those would be hard.
I could see Tyrion styling stilts for Bran.
Yeah,
that'd be cool, actually. Yeah.
I wonder if Tyrion ever did that at one point. Made stilts for himself.
Tywin came
comes down to dinner and Tyrion's as tall as Tywin.
What are you doing?
just wanted to look you in the eye and tell you I hate you.
But I desperately yearn for your approval. But I don't like you.
I hate you.
But
they're cool, right? They are. You like them. You can tell your friends that your son isn't a dwarf anymore. It was a mistake.
I am taller than the mountain now, father. I'm the popsicle that rides.
Popsicle. I love that. Oh.
It's a food reference.
I know. It's always food reference. Oh.
Speaking of food, I haven't eaten any.
Okay.
I need to eat some food.
Oh, we did run over a little bit. That was a good stream. Oh man, I had some laughs on that stream. That was good.
Just skinning deer and wearing stilts.
Thank you, Joey. I hope you have a good evening as well.
Yeah, definitely have a good one. Good luck with the stilts.
Yes.
And we're streaming at 2 this Saturday, so pop in for some more All the Young Dudes if you get some time. We miss you too.
Miss you too, man.
Joey Roo, you are an Instagram person. We have an Instagram now, so follow us on BIBLIOBIBULI official.
Yes, we'll see you next time. And Angela, thank you again so much for the donation.
Yes, thank you for the donation. That was awesome.
All right, everyone.
See
Take
ya.
care. We will
Bye.
see you Saturday.
We done?